I move third reading amendment number 5 to House Bill 152. Members, this amendment is conforming language for the bill. This bill has been brought in an effort to acknowledge that all members of the human race are created equal and are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, the foremost of which is a right to life. So nowhere in this bill do we say this right can be revoked, not at birth, not at your 21st birthday party, and not when you're 108. And so what this amendment does is further conforms our statutes, as we see on page 1 in the title of the bill. We're looking at line 3. This is specifying criminal and regulatory penalties and civil remedies. It's providing a right of, or making conforming amendments, renumbering current provisions.
Mr. Speaker, point of order.
What's your point?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe that this amendment is germane to the bill. I call a Rules Committee.
Rules Committee to the front.
Members, so I do believe that this is actually germane to the bill, because if you look, I mean, besides the title of the bill, in the long title, we're talking about creating the Life as a Human Right Act. I think that alone makes it germane to talk about whether the amendment fits within that title. But even if we just say that alone is not enough, I think when we're talking about repealing and removing obsolete or conflicting provisions, then we bring in the text of the bill on whether a repealing of an obsolete or a conflicting provision matters. So then when we talk about whether the amendment is germane to that title, saying it's a conflicting provision, then we can go into the bill and talk about things like the findings, where we talk about the life of every human being begins at conception, doesn't talk about whether it ends or whether the state really has a right to end that. And so I think that there is room within that title, which brings in the text of the bill for consideration to decide that this amendment is germane. So I would ask you to vote yes on the appeal so we can debate the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So under Section 402 of Masons, there's, I believe, 6 different checks for if something is germane or not. So it must be germane to the subject of the proposal, which I would argue is that, I mean, the bill's title is Life is a Human Right Act. So we are trying to protect the rights of people, and we have defined people as starting at conception in this bill, and we have not put an end date to when you lose that right. So I would argue that we are from life, or from conception under this bill to the grave, this would fit under it. Additionally, when we look at the title, so we're talking about specifying criminal and regulatory penalties on line 3, this is referring to criminal statutes. And so we're imposing a felony in the bill, along with imprisonment. So I don't understand, it would go with the notion that we're amending our punishment statutes. And furthermore, we're going to repealing and removing obsolete or conflicting provisions. If the state has decided under this bill that we are going to protect life starting at conception, then how can we deal with this conflicting provision that we can turn around and the state can take your life? So I would argue that this fits under that repealing and removing obsolete. And the title of the amendment, I believe, I don't have it. Title of the amendment, page 1, line 6, conforming the penalty for first-degree murder. Not adding, not repealing, just we're conforming. This is a conforming amendment. I'll stop there, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and opposed to the motion, I'd like to make a couple of points. First of all, as we're parsing things, and the good bringer of the amendment is, I believe, parsing this word life, I think we should differentiate between innocent life and that which is not innocent life. And clearly this bill is addressing innocent life, and it can be read throughout the bill. That is the purpose of the bill, to protect innocent life. Secondly, I would just mention that during the discussion over the germaneness, the good prosecutor from District 55 made a most excellent point in that this is a completely different issue when we're talking about guilty life. And we have not debated this. We have not had an opportunity for public input. And I think it's a subject matter that deserves public input before this body should make a decision upon that policy for the state. So I would urge
We're not talking about the policy, we're talking about whether it's germane to the title or not.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would urge a no vote on the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I sit on the Rules Committee, and oftentimes we will have some close calls, I think, on that Rules Committee. And even though the vote itself was a close call, I don't think the decision on whether this is germane or not is close. So I'm on in support of the appeal on the decision of the chair. You know, this bill is really very, it's the definition of a single subject, and its single subject is not abortion. Its single subject is life. The catch title is life is a human right. The second sentence in the enabling clause of this bill is creating the Life is a Human Right Act. So it doesn't say that it creates the life, that the innocent life is a human right act. It doesn't say certain life. It doesn't say some life. It says life. And so I think that the debate of whether life is a human right or not is exactly what this bill, the subject of this bill. It makes findings that all members of the human race are created equal and are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, the foremost of which is the right to life. The subject matter of whether a death penalty should be legal in a state or repealed is literally the conversation of a right to life. So whether you agree with the death penalty, whether you disagree with the death penalty, I don't think that matters. What matters is whether this bill is about life. And if it's about life, then the amendment is germane.
Chairman Washut for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the issues that the Rules Committee looks at when we wrestle with these questions about germaneness is whether or not the amendment brings up statutory language in the same chapter as does the bill. And so this death penalty question comes under Title VI in our statutes, and Title VI is not in this bill. And for that reason alone, as well as many others, I would ask you to please support the ruling of the chair.
Representative Oakley for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also ask for a no vote of overruling the chair. So we talk about germaneness, and the reality is just a basic understanding of what that word means, its relevance. And I mean, as we all know, we're looking at a 19-page bill that's about abortion, that talks about, defines, babies, all this stuff. We all know that not anything in here is about capital punishment. And I've dealt with this sort of amendment before. And on top of that, the reality is you can vote no and agree with the chair for whatever reason that, whatever reason that you want. And we do have in our Constitution, Article 3, Section 24, bill to contain only one subject, which shall be expressed in the title. No bill shall be passed containing more than one subject, which shall be clearly expressed. And again, there isn't anybody in this body that's confused, that thinks that what this bill had, at all addresses capital punishment. It does not. And the reality is, I believe, under our Constitution then, that we have a duty to our constituents and to people that when we're going to put something, this is third reading, to pass it, for us to say, yes, we want to pass this into law. You better be talking about it in committee, hearing from your community, and it better be the point of the bill. This clearly is not vote no to stick with our chair's ruling.
Representative Jennings for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to agree and echo the good country lawyer that just spoke there. And I would point you to page 1. The broader part of this is an act relating to abortion. We're defining life pertaining to abortion. It's not pertaining to penalties or anything of that nature. So vote no and support the ruling of the chair.
Anybody else for their first time? Representative Ward for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a rare day that I agree with the good representative from House District 55, but I strongly agree with her, and I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the point of innocent life, in the bill, we talk about unalienable rights. We talk about that this act promotes and furthers Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution, which guarantees that citizens shall be without distinction of race, color, sex, or any circumstances or conditions whatsoever. And additionally, I would argue, not everybody who has been executed by the government has been guilty. We have had 190 people taken off of death row who have been exonerated because they are not guilty, and we know that factually. So I would argue that, and then furthermore, when we go back to Masons, when we're talking about germaneness, number 3.
What's your point?
Mr. Speaker, are we debating the cause here, or are we debating the ruling of the chair?
I think she's on the ruling on the germaneness. Please proceed, Representative Provenza.
So number 3, to be germane, the amendment is required only to relate to the same subject. It may entirely change the effect or be in conflict with the spirit of the motion or proposal. Number 4, an entirely new proposal may be substituted by amendment as long as it is germane to the main purpose of the original proposal, that being life.
Representative Yin, wrap it up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I want to point to one specific thing. So the good representative from Sheridan helped me make sure that I hit this. He said that there isn't anything in here about criminal penalties. It's actually right in the title. It says on line 3, specifying criminal and regulatory penalties and civil remedies. So the good representative from Sweetwater County actually brought this up on Committee of the Whole, where we were talking about whether this could actually create a first-degree murder charge for a woman who has an abortion. And so that in itself, I think, makes it relevant to decide whether the death penalty is an appropriate circumstance here. And members, again, this doesn't have to be a vote on whether the policy is good or not. This is whether the rules of this body that are covered by the rules of this body say that this amendment is germane to debate at all. So again, even if you accept the appeal where I'm appealing the chair, it doesn't mean you accept that the amendment is good policy. There'll be a separate vote on that after we debate it. All this appeal asks you to do is determine whether the amendment is germane. And, I've pointed out a couple of things where I think it does fit in that title, so I would ask you to appeal the ruling of the chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All those in favor of overruling the chair on the fact that third reading amendment number 5 to House Bill 152 is not germane. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The objection has been, got to get this right because it's late in the day. But anyway, the objection to my ruling has failed. And now, Representative Provenza, I would ask that you withdraw your amendment.
I respectfully withdraw third reading amendment number 5 to House Bill 152.
Thank you.